everyone and welcome back to my booktube channel, Lisa in Bookland. Today I'm going to do the reading habits tag. I was very kindly tagged in this by Kristen at Enter the Book. I really like this tag because I'm just nosy about other people's reading habits, and as I mentioned before, I don't know a lot of prolific readers in real life, so it's nice to get some reassurance other people do these kind of things as well. Yeah, with that, on to the questions. So question 1 is, do you have a certain place at home for reading? So the answer to that is no, not really. I read really everywhere, on the couch, in bed. When it's nice outside, I really love to sit outside in the garden. We've kind of a swing chair or hammock that I love to sit on, but equally I'll sit on just on the path and whatever side of the house is catching the sun at that time of the day. Anywhere I happen to be sitting down for a minute, even if I go for a walk, I'll tend to have a book with me in case there's somewhere nice to sit down and read a few pages. So question 2 is a bookmark or a random piece of paper. So generally a bookmark, I'd say. If I have like no bookmarks around, or I've just bought a new book like everyone else, like the bus ticket or the train ticket or the receipt does tend to double as a bookmark, or sometimes there'll be like random pieces of paper that are just nice and I'll use them as bookmarks. But bookmarks are like especially favourite souvenirs of mine to buy when I go on holidays. So I have a good collection of them. Like this lovely one is from the Palazzo Vecchio in Florence. I bought this one at Jane Austen's house, and I had such a job to pick this one. Obviously it's a quote from Persuasion, but they had loads of others, and I was awful tempted to buy more, but they were quite pricey, and I'm really sorry now I didn't, because I don't know when I'll be back there again. So yeah, those are gorgeous bookmarks, kind of fabric and embroidered. Closer to home, I bought this one in Clifton, sheep obviously being associated with Connemara, and this is a postcard from Bletchley Park that I tend to use if I'm reading kind of a more wartime kind of novel. So yeah, I think it's fun to kind of match bookmarks to what you're reading as well. So question 3 is, can you just stop reading, or do you have to stop after a chapter or a certain amount of pages? So I generally do prefer to stop reading after a chapter, like if it's a long one there might be like a section break, but if I do have to, I will stop at just the end of a page or something. It just makes more sense to stop at a section break if you can. So question 4 is, do you eat or drink while reading? Almost always. I often say that my two biggest hobbies are drinking tea and reading, and usually at the same time. This is my very battered teapot that really needs a polish, that accompanies many hours of reading. Sometimes it's nice to indulge in something a bit stronger as well. If I'm eating alone, I nearly always read at the same time, and at the grand old age of nearly 28 I still can't use a fork and knife correctly. And I think it's because like from a young age I cut up all of my food like with a fork and knife into bite-sized pieces, and then I'll get rid of the knife, switch the fork to my right hand and be holding a book with my left. Yeah, when I go out I have to concentrate really hard to appear halfway civilised and eat normally. So question 5 then is multitasking, so music or TV while you're reading. It's funny, like, but I used to read all the time when other people had like the telly on in the room, but I find that very difficult to do now. Occasionally I'd listen to music, but usually it's like the classical radio station or something like that, just very light in the background. The exception for some reason is when I'm in the car. I find it quite easy to read while the radio is on, obviously not while I'm driving, while other people are driving. So question 6 then is, one book at a time or several at once? Almost always a few at once now. Like a lot of people, I'll have like an ebook, a physical book and an audiobook on the go. At the moment I actually have 4 physical books, which is a bit much. So I'm reading Dissolution by Sansom, Islands by Dan Sleigh, Remarkable Creatures by Tracey Chevalier, and I'm reading very slowly Don Quixote by Cervantes as well. I wouldn't say I often switch between books in a reading session. Like I'll usually read them in chunks. An odd time I will read more than one book on the same day, especially if you've got like a non-fiction on the go or a classic. You mightn't always be in the mood for that, so it's nice to switch around to what you feel like. So question 7 then is, reading at home or everywhere? Like most bookworms, the answer for me is everywhere, and I mean everywhere. So like a lot of people, I like going to a cafe to read, and it's one of my favourite things to do on a Saturday and really means the weekend for me. And I really go to cafes, I think, more to read than to eat or drink. I love reading on holidays, of course. I love reading on like buses and trains, and when I'm on them it really passes the time and you actually really enjoy public transport then, instead of having to drive and concentrate. The most unusual place I've ever read was definitely at the Mart. I did get a few strange looks and I haven't been brought since, so maybe that was why. So question 8 then is reading out loud or silently in your head. Most of the time silently, with like two main exceptions. They'd be Jane Austen and Patrick O'Brien, who funnily enough have like similar writing style. You know, their prose is just so nice to read out loud, especially if it's kind of witty or like the dialogue is really good. Sometimes I'll read just the dialogue aloud to myself and the like other bits of the narration in my head. I don't know, it just if I feel like it, not always. Also, I've read a small amount of Walter Scott, and that kind of like prose poetry really is made to be read aloud. It just sounds nice, I suppose, with the rhyming schemes and things. So question 9 then is, do you read ahead or even skip pages? Read ahead I generally wouldn't anymore. I used to do it when I was younger, like a lot of people. I think I'd read the last page, and to this day I'm not like terribly fussy about spoilers, but yeah, I don't do that anymore on purpose. I rarely skip pages entirely. If I am enjoying a book or I'm kind of on the point of DNFing it, I like skim read pages really quickly, like probably nearly is the same as skipping pages. Or if I was like very near the end of a book that I wasn't enjoying, I might do that as well, just to see what happened in the end, but like I just didn't really care that much. So in my kind of personal rating system, which I don't like leave in my wrap-ups or anything because it's very like top heavy, I'm an optimistic person and probably makes very little sense, I would give 3 or 4 out of 10 to a book that I managed to finish by skim reading, and 1 or 2 for like a DNF. So yeah, as I said, it doesn't make sense. So question 10 then is breaking the spine or keeping it like new. Definitely breaking the spine. I don't do it on purpose, but I don't mind at all when it happens. Kind of linked to the next question, but I do buy a lot of my books second hand, so I don't really mind if they get damaged. I do have a few nice hardcovers and things that I do be careful with, but most of the time, like I said, I like to read outside, I like to read while I'm eating, I bring my books with me everywhere, so yeah, I suppose I'm not really attached to most of them how they look aesthetically, though maybe when I have a nice little hybrid I can display them better, I will care more. Who knows, they're just all kind of squashed in at the minute, so they might get a little bit battered anyways. Oh, that's terrible. So the last question then is question 11, do you write in your books? Absolutely, yeah, I love to write in my books. Again, with exceptions, like I said, if there's any like really nice hardcovers or I have a small few like older books, I wouldn't do that. Horrifically, I do have this copy of some Scott, including Marmion, from like I think about the 1890s. Somebody has written in with like blue Bic pen, which is just like wrong. I also usually kind of hold off writing on them until I've passed the first few chapters. If it's a book that I really am enjoying and have a strong feeling, I will be like passing on straight away. I won't deface it. It's been my long habit to write my name and address on the first page of a book when I get it, and if I got it on holidays or anything, I'll write that in there as well, just as a souvenir. My annotations aren't very profound or anything. I didn't study English at college, and I wouldn't say I'm a terribly analytical reader, so my annotations are usually just like quotes I liked or how it might relate to my own life, or like exclamation marks for plot twists, or you know, things like that. I've heard some people say that when they're reading they see pictures in their head, which would be so nice, but that doesn't usually happen for me unless I put an awful lot of effort into it. I do sometimes see pictures a very odd time, but it's mostly like to do with the setting. I rarely see like characters. Yeah, I think writing in books kind of helps me engage with the story more as well. All the people on BookTube and the way they talk about books definitely inspires me to look at books with kind of a more analytical eye, so you never know, that might change for me in the future. So that's all the questions for this tag. I know Kristen it tagged me a while ago, and I've seen most people do this tag, so I won't tag anybody, but if you haven't done it yet and you feel like doing it, definitely go and consider yourself tagged. Thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next Thursday for my next video.